Good afternoon, everyone, or evening, depending on where you are. Thanks so much for joining us for the second talk in the spring series of the Clean Energy Research Group. I want to start by acknowledging that the Clean Energy Research Group is supported by both SFU and the Willow Grove Foundation. And today we have a really interesting and important talk, a culmination of about a year's worth of research by our graduate student, Leticia Yeboah. She's finishing up her master's project, and her focus is on gender equity in the energy sector, a topic that is central to the questions around just transition, and obviously has wider ramifications in terms of the disparities in gender across the board in terms of occupations, both in Canada and around the world. And what she's done the last 6 months is work on a case study. The case study is of the Lady Volta Green Tech Academy. It's a experiment funded by EU partners and run with local support in Ghana. And the idea behind the academy is to train women to enter into the solar energy sector. And Leticia brings a strong background in this topic. She has a master's degree in energy and resource environment economics from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, and she's worked as a research associate at the Africa Center for Energy Policy. So I want to let everyone know that we're recording this so that our counterparts in Ghana can also give us feedback as Leticia gets closer to defending her master's proposal. And again, the support for that master's field research was provided by the Willow Grove Foundation. So Leticia, you can start now and share your slides, and then we'll get to the discussion. So click that and just go to presentation mode. Great. Okay, can everyone see Leticia's presentation on the screen now? Andy, can you see the presentation on the screen? Good. Okay, Leticia, go ahead. You can just sit down if you want. Doesn't matter. The camera will focus on you once you start speaking.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you to the search team for this opportunity. So I'm presenting on promoting women's participation in Ghana's renewable energy industry, a case study of Lady Volta Green Tech Academy.
You can just minimize that. Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So renewable energy is essential for securing energy supplies, reducing the harmful effects of traditional energy use, and mitigating climate change. The transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy can be used to promote economic development and poverty reduction. However, the effectiveness of this path will fully be realized if it is socially inclusive, particularly regarding gender equity. According to the 2024 International Labour Organization and International Renewable Energy Agency report, the global employment in the renewable energy sector increased from 7.3 million to 16.2 million from 2012 to 2023, and is predicted to multiply or predicted to increase by 2050. Despite this growth in employment options, the gender gap represents a major problem in this industry. Women are underrepresented in technical and leadership roles. And then looking at this diagram, women constitute 32% and then men 68% in the renewable energy workforce. This case is similar to that of Ghana. The renewable energy sector is increasing rapidly in Ghana, and then women find it difficult to secure jobs in this sector. Currently, women's engagement in this sector lags behind that of men and is predicted to take over a century to close. This gap or trend is attributed to underrepresentation of women in STEM fields, cultural and social norms, limited access to technical skills and educational opportunities, and unfavorable company policies and hiring practices. So this leads to the research questions. question, how can policies and practices be improved to increase the ability of women find employment in the renewable energy sector in Ghana? And my objectives are to investigate policies and practices aimed at increasing women's ability to find and retain employment, to analyze the current scenario of women's participation in the renewable energy sector, and also provide insights and recommendations on successful initiatives to promote women's participation. So the research employs a mixed method approach, that's quantitative and qualitative research methods. So from 8 September to 4th October, a field-based data collection for this research was conducted at Volta Green Tech Academy. And I conducted semi-structured interviews and administered questionnaires. So out of 50 participants, 25 were students, 5 were teachers, 15 were alumni, 3 were clean tech companies, and then 2 were administrators. In summary, the male participants were 36, representing 72%, and then the female participants were 14, representing 28%. With the limitation of this study, the timing of data collection. As students were on vacation during this period, and it made it challenging to conduct face-to-face interviews. But then most of the students made it to the academy to be interviewed, and then there were some that had to travel to meet these participants at their location. So to provide a comprehensive initiatives in addressing gender disparities and strategies in promoting women's participation, my research focuses on the Volta Green Tech Academy, established in the Volta region of Ghana. So this academy was established in 2015 to combat poverty in rural communities and also empower women through technical skills training in solar and electrical installations. The academy is as a result of partnership between Village Exchange Ghana and Social Venture Africa. The academy's slogan, "What men can do, women can do better," highlights their commitment on teaching women how to construct mini solar panels. So over time, the training expanded to include auditing and calculating household energy usage, installing solar systems, such as charge controllers, inverters, panels, and then batteries. So with the male and female enrollment at Volta, in 2021, the male enrollment was 17 and then female were 4. In 2022, the male increased to 43 and then the female enrollment increased to 13. In 2023, male enrollment increased to 139 and female enrollment decreased to 7. So the decline in the female enrollment is as a result of accommodation issues. This whereby most of these students struggle to secure housing accommodation near the academy, and there's limited transportation options that make regular attendance challenging. Most of these women are married, so their spouse and then family restricts them from enrolling or pursuing programs in this sector. There's societal bias and misconception about women in technical fields that is mainly meant for men. And then they also face the fear of electric shocks and physical risks, such as encountering snakes whenever they are working at height or they are fixing street lights or electrical cables. They encounter such risks, and also financial difficulties. So with the findings of the current students, majority of the current students are from rural homes and then also from economically disadvantaged homes. So when asked about their relevance to the course, 4% find the course to be extremely relevant, 72% find the courses that they pursue to be very relevant, 16% find it to be moderately relevant, and then 8% find it to be slightly relevant. And then with regards to their career preparation, that's transitioning into the workforce, 28% find it to be exceptionally well prepared, 64% find very well prepared, and then 8% find it somewhat well prepared. And the challenges that they face as students are 20% face academic support, Another 20% also face financial issues. 16% face limited access to resources. 16% also face gender-related issues. 12% face the short duration of their courses, and then 16% find no challenges at all. And then with the effectiveness of promoting gender equity at the Volta, 12% find it to be extremely effective. 48% find the academy to be very effective in promoting gender equity. 20% find moderately effective. 12% find slightly effective, and the 8% find not effective at all. So with the findings of the teachers, most of these teachers bring diverse background in electrical engineering, biology, physics, and then public health. So when asked about how they update their teaching materials, 80% of these teachers update their materials every semester to reflect industry standards and safety trainings, and 20% rarely update. And then with regards to the effectiveness of the curriculum, 20% of the teachers find the curriculum to be very effective, 60% find it to be effective, and 20% find it to be somewhat effective. So I asked them the challenges that female students face, and then their responses were that female students face societal stereotypes, financial constraints, transportation barriers, as mentioned earlier, pregnancy, some get pregnant along the way and then have to drop out, lack of sponsorship, and limited support systems. And the success stories that the teachers gave was that most of these students, alumni, have been able to secure positions with reputable renewable energy companies, and some have also launched their companies. And the academy too has also employed some of these graduates. So the teachers recommend that the academy advocates for industry partnership with companies. They facilitate more internship and fieldwork opportunities, implement structured mentorship programs, provide financial assistance to students, enhance safety training, and conscious government support. And with the findings of the alumni, 80% of the alumni consider career advancement as their main aim for enrolling programs at Volta. 15% also find that their primary motivation stems from scholarship and funding opportunities, as initially the academy used to sponsor these students, they used to cover their tuition fees. And 5% of the students identify a combined interest in renewable energy and also the funding opportunities. And the alumni also confirmed that 27% of them are employed, and then 73% are unemployed, indicating the absence of effective job placement services, limited industry partnerships, and gaps in increasingly in-demand advanced technical skills. But 67% of respondents are not employed in any position related to renewable energy sector. Among the employed alumni, 33% are distributed across various roles, including electrical apprentice, receptionist, cleaner, technician, electrician, or solar expert, and electrical engineering, with each of the category representing 7% of the total. And the challenges that they face is the struggle with the expenses for the tools and equipment, and the short duration of the program, the high cost of solar materials, outdated equipment, tasks involving heavy lifting, or other physical labor, and inconsistent internships. So they recommend that the academy extend the internship, because the academy also has partnership or link with Electricity Company of Ghana. So most of these students have the opportunity to have internship at the company. So they recommend that they extend the internship program, increase the industry partnerships, improve mentorship and trainings to bridge the gap between skills and acquisition and job market readiness. And the success story is also that most of them have been able to secure employment in the technical fields. And with the clean tech companies, 3 companies were identified. That was through partnership between the academy. So employment, when these employers are hiring, they make sure they prioritize companies or student candidates with skills in solar system design, experience in installations, people who have experience in ICT, physical readiness, and also have other certifications. So Volta, their experience with Volta graduates that these graduates are generally well prepared with practical skills. They are technically disciplined, and they have the professionalism, making them valuable to hire them. These companies collaborate with Volta on their curriculum design, suggesting the inclusion of advanced system tools and industry-specific needs. Some graduates, as I mentioned, some graduates also lack advanced technical skills and real-world application experience, highlighting the need for more targeting training programs or postgraduate follow-up training. And then challenges that the sector or the clean companies they face is that the renewable energy sector is expected to grow, but then they face a high product cost as they import these solar panels and then batteries, and the prices ranging from $1,000 to $5,000. And then they also face regulatory barriers and making the market very limited. So the gender inclusiveness is improving in the clean energy sector, but efforts are needed to create policies that address biological factors such as flexible work arrangement for women during menstruation or after childbirth. So the key challenges that academy faces is that they face challenges in securing adequate funding to support outreach and then recruitment initiatives. There's a high cost of renewable energy equipment, that's the batteries and then the solar panels. There's misalignment with the curriculum and then the industry needs. There's limited career counseling and lack of structured mentorship. Sociocultural norms and gender stereotypes, the fear of electrical shocks for female students, short internship durations, limited job placement services, financial barriers limiting student participation in extended training, and then the industry hesitation to hire women. So with the recommendations, the Volta must prioritize the following recommendations: that collaborating with governments, NGOs, and international organizations to secure funding for tools, resources, and living support, to increase the duration of practical training, and also making sure to align their curriculum with industry needs. Also to empower female students by introducing mentorship programs and confidence building workshops, form partnership with clean energy firms, and ensure direct job placement for these graduates, emphasizing support for female technicians and male-dominated fields. And also to provide professional development opportunities for teachers. For non-governmental organizations and advocacy groups, they are encouraged to advocate for subsidies on renewable energy equipment and reduce import duties, to connect with Volta with renewable energy companies and industry leaders by creating internship opportunities, job placement pathways, and collaborative projects. Provide additional funding for scholarships, training programs, and advocacy efforts to promote gender equity. And then with the government and policymakers, they are encouraged to reduce import duties and offer subsidies on renewable energy equipment, to establish scholarships, grants, or low-interest loans for female students that are enrolled in clean energy training programs, to introduce affordable housing options near the training institutions to prevent student accommodation challenges, and also to provide targeted incentives for renewable energy companies that hire and support women in leadership and technical roles, to launch campaigns to challenge societal stereotypes that discourage women from pursuing careers in technical fields. And then the private sector companies are also encouraged to partner with institutions like Volta to help design and update curriculum to align with emerging industry needs, to establish mentorship programs where experienced professionals guide students, especially women in these technical fields, develop workplace policies that promote gender inclusivity, actively recruit and mentor female graduates to encourage their participation in technical roles, and offer graduate training programs specifically for the Volta graduates to ensure smooth transition into the workforce. So with the general recommendation for gender equity and clean energy, streamlining policies that support women's full and equal access to clean energy jobs and training. So there's a need for impact-driven awareness campaign that highlight the benefits of gender diversity in clean energy sectors. Implement educational programs that aim to reduce societal and cultural barriers for women in STEM fields. Enhance partnership between educational institutions and industries to facilitate internship and job placement for women. Enhance existing mentorship and networking opportunities that is tailored for women in the clean energy sector, and implement mechanisms to track progress on gender equity within the clean energy sector. So this comes to the end of my presentation, but then I'd like to thank Dr. Anihira for his support and mentorship throughout this work, Lady Volta for their support whilst on field. They were very helpful. The faculty, students, alumni, Leticia Willow Grove Foundation and Surge for your financial support, and also the Department of Political Science for the financial assistance, and also to my family, friends, and colleagues. Thank you very much.
Leticia.
Very good.
This is a great example of a cutting edge kind of research, because everyone talks about the just transition, but very few have actually laid a roadmap for achieving it. And as we're starting to shift away from fossil fuels, and we start to see the legacy of all the health effects that were concentrated in marginalized groups, and just like global emissions are going to affect marginalized groups the most, as we start to construct this new green economy, we really need to think about ways to transform our sectors so that they are more equitable. We can do both at the same time, that is, achieve environmental sustainability and also achieve greater and more reasonable equity within our workforce. I also want to thank Christoph Birch, he's here, and all those partners at Lady Volta that were so generous to allow Leticia to go in and do this neutral, unbiased analysis with the idea of improving what they're doing. In fact, there are dozens of different experiments happening around the world. You have probably heard about the Barefoot Project in South Asia, where rural women are being trained to be solar engineers. So all of these experiments are happening around the world, but there are very few people connecting these things. And so Leticia's work is really helpful in that regard. And I think it's important also in terms of your research, Leticia, to point out that one project can only do so much. What Leticia's research points out is that there are structural inequities built into society, into cultural norms, into government policies, into the energy sectors themselves. And so one project can only do so much. Maybe part of your research agenda that you lay out is to start to connect some of these different sectors. Policy needs to be involved, the private sector needs to be involved, and international assistance needs to be involved to start to overcome some of these things that Lady Volta graduates are facing in terms of postgraduate placement. So I'm going to open up the floor now for anyone that wants to make comments or has questions for Leticia. Thomas?
Hi, yeah, thank you very much for the talk. I just wanted to ask, I was interested in those last few slides, especially. In terms of the sectors, where do you see the biggest, maybe short-term changes coming from? Like from the NGO, the government, or the private sector? Where do you think the most potential is for immediate action?
So the question was for the issues that you pointed out in your last slide, how would you prioritize them? What do you think is the most important sector to focus on in terms of making progress?
Well, first of all, I think the most important one is the Volta partnership with the industries, and also followed by the government sector with regards to the import duties. I know it will it's a long-term thing, but then when that one is reduced, it will help expand the market, because for now the market is limited because of the price of the solar installation, of the solar energy, and then the batteries. So with the partnership, there's mentorship for the students first, and then followed by these government institutions.
Yeah, I want to see the possibility of a government policy that starts to think about trying to capture more of the value added of the renewable equipment chain within Ghana itself, especially in terms of maintenance and installation of equipment. And so you could see that policymakers can see gender equity as one part of the general strategy to try to enter into the clean energy and clean tech. What we don't want is to recreate the old colonial system where developing countries import everything. And unfortunately, because of all of the dumping and heavy subsidies by both the West and China, right now, developing countries don't really have a foothold in terms of renewable energy manufacturing. But in terms of labor costs and know-how, they should. Christoph, I'm really interested to hear your reaction and initial thoughts.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Leticia. This is really amazing work, and this is very helpful for us. So it's really great for us to have an opportunity to get such a systematic survey done on the work that is really pointing on the challenges and giving us a lot of food of thought on how we can best improve and most effectively improve the vocational centers. So I want to thank all of you for this great opportunity that you gave our institution. I really enjoyed the presentation as well. One question that came to mind is related to one of the slides where you showed how the past students were doing now in terms of their employment status and the type of occupations they are having today, or that they had some time after their education. And I was wondering if you saw some kind of correlation between the level of educational attainment and the quality of the job they got. Because at our school, there is students that are staying on for longer, that basically obtain higher levels of qualification in the vocational training scheme, right? Whereas others just stay for half a year. So I was wondering whether you saw in your sample some interesting relationships there. Thank you.
Okay, so with regards to the employment, when I asked them, they told me most of them upgrade themselves. Some go to polytechnics to further their education before they are able to get employment. But then one thing I know is that, unemployment rate in Ghana is also high now, and then most industries are not hiring. And then with the private sectors too, they have limited number of people that they hire, making it increasing the unemployment rate because they want to maximize profit and then minimize cost. So when they graduate from the Volta, they have to upgrade to acquire more skills before they are employed in these sectors.
So I guess, Christoph, well, part of the challenge then is to try to separate out the general macroeconomic conditions from the specific placement rate. And I would guess that if we looked at the potential for rural women to get into the renewable energy sector as a control group without Lady Volta, the percentage would be much lower. So we have to see this low percentage in perspective. And I do think that Leticia's research really highlights the importance of having, potentially stronger partnerships with clean energy companies and potentially with policymakers. We all know that as Trump is unraveling all of our green energy policies in North America, that at the initial stages of any new industry or sector, government support is essential. Okay, anyone else have any other questions or comments at this point? Jessica, did you have some thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, thanks so much. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand in Zoom. Thanks so much, Leticia, for the presentation. I was really looking forward to it. I guess I had a question on your recommendation portions. I always find that very useful and very helpful as a policy analyst, having the academic research and the evidence to back things up, but also the recommendations on concrete actions. I saw that you had a lot of really great ideas from different industries. In your analysis, I'm wondering, were you able to assess kind of putting those recommendations on a timeline? Are there ones that are easier to do, for example, things that maybe for companies, for NGOs, for different sectors would be easier to do, and things that might require maybe longer term efforts or more substantiated efforts? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Just that's awesome. I didn't get it up.
So what she's saying is, if you're putting yourself as an advisor to Lady Volta, what would you advise to be their priorities that are the easiest or most readily available to them to start to improve placement of our graduates?
Oh, with Lady Volta, I think the most important thing is to partner with these industries. Yeah, to help them able to secure jobs. I know it's not that easy, but then I think the partnership will work. Yeah.
When you talk to the companies, what was their general attitude towards hiring women? What do you feel is the resistance there?
Well, when I talk to the companies, their main issue was about the women being able to lift heavy equipment and then also be able to work at height. And then there were some that they were like, no, don't mention even women. They are not going to do it. So I think, and then there are some companies who also make sure that when they employ, they make sure the gender, there is balance with the gender. They employ both males and then females. There was one who mentioned that he has employed 8, but then he makes sure 4 are males, 4 are females. So it depends. Some of them, they know the women are not willing to work, so they won't even try to employ them. But then there are some who are willing to make sure they employ women.
So it sounds like there are deeply seated cultural biases against gender.
Yeah.
And any sense about how to start to make an impact on that?
Sorry.
How do we start to improve these attitudes?
I think media campaigning, maybe launching awareness about these things will help for them to know that women can also make it. Not they shouldn't even think about the negative aspects, even though it's there. But then with protocols and safety trainings, I know the academy also trained them regarding safety in order not to get hurt or anything. So that one will help. Media campaigns and then awareness.
Christoph, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting discussion, and we already had that in our leadership group a few times. So one aspect that we were wondering about is whether we should target certain type of jobs in the electricity and renewable energy sector for women specifically. So maybe not the jobs that are perceived as more dangerous, but maybe others that are more into, say, like electronics or so, right? So or if you think about, domestic versus industrial wiring, maybe domestic wiring is perceived as safer than industrial wiring, right? So I was wondering whether you have any thoughts on that.
Any thoughts on whether we should prioritize which jobs to place women into to try to avoid those stereotypes?
Oh, well, I know with the wiring that they mentioned of them about the shocks, but then with the installations, they have no problem with that. Yeah.
Also, go ahead.
I was wondering, I'm sorry I'm not on I came in late, so my Zoom connection is not there. But I was wondering maybe a mentorship programs would be the answer partially to this. If you assign a mentor who is personally invested in the success of a specific woman, who is already in the industry, that might be one of the ways to combat these kinds of stereotypes, because if he is mentoring and nurturing sort of a specialist and expert in the future, that specific person might be her pathway into the career. And as more women succeed in these jobs, I think the mindset might change as a result of that. So I'm wondering if there is any potential for specifically assigning one-to-one programs where there is a specific mentor assigned to a specific student, and in this way, slowly change it. I think that's the only way that's the only potential pathway to resolve this issue. One by one, change this mindset. I don't know if that's something you've considered or if that's possible at all.
Yeah, I mentioned that the teachers do that. There are teachers who are there's one teacher who's into public health or something. He does it, he tries to mentor them, but then I think it has to be improved. Getting the expertise or women in this field to come there and then also.
I was wondering more, not the teachers who are in the academy, but people who are in the industry and working already, because teachers, based on what I've read and what you've presented, don't really have those stereotypes. It's because they don't have them why they participate in the program. It's the people who are in the industry who suffer from the stereotypes. So I was wondering if there is any potential to sort of pair these people from the industry to the students.
I think it's a great idea, and that's something that we never did in a systematic way. So far we only, brought in former students. Some of them were in the industry, others were in higher education or themselves then teachers. And we did more of a kind of a role model type of interaction. But I think it's a good idea to try that more systematic in the way you suggest, that there's like industry partners and we identify mentors there for female students especially. Another aspect that I wanted to mention, is like really the housing. So it's really clear that we lost a lot of female student share after we stopped providing housing services. And we really have to find a way to fund that again and to bring back housing services that seem to be really important.
Did you have conversations about housing?
Yes, they struggle to secure affordable housing.
Yeah, so, the education system itself, as Alsu was pointing out, it's really biased because of the academic incentive system towards peer-reviewed publications. What we really need to prepare students for jobs is more applied kind of training in addition to the knowledge base that we're imparting. And so I think it's a problem not just limited to this case, but education in general. There's a reason why people are so concerned about trying to get into Ivy League schools in the US, and it's because their alumni networks are so strong. And so those alumni networks, those institutional ties that they have with employers is really what the value of the Ivy League degree is. It's not necessarily that the education is that much better. And so I think you're hitting on something that's really important and that we're not even doing in the West. In fact, I have another student working on gender equity in Canada. And if I remember right, the percentage is below 40% of women in the energy sector in general. Women's participation in the energy sector in general, and even lower in terms of clean tech. So this is a problem not just limited to developing countries, but it's a problem we need to tackle around the world. Any other questions or comments? Okay, and anything else you want to add, Leticia, at this point? Final thoughts? What would you say are the primary lessons if you were going to advise a new project in any developing country? What would you say are the primary lessons you took away from your research?
Well, the lessons I took away, I know Lady Volta is doing a great job. And then before choosing Lady Volta, I researched about other regions, whether there's any NGO doing the same thing. But then it seems the academy is doing a great job. So with regards to women empowerment, So, and then I believe that most of these ladies too are also working very hard. I've even gained interest in learning how to install solar panels. So I think Lady Volta is doing a great job, and then I really also learned a lot from them. Even though during vacation, I wasn't able to experience how they work, but then I know for future research, if I'm supposed to continue with this research, I'll work on the career trajectories of these graduates, and also maybe combine or use it with other regions to do comparison with other regions too as well.
Yeah. So I just want to thank Christoph. I want to thank you and your team again for allowing us to do this research. We understand that the constraints that you're facing are so challenging, and it's a really important case, I think, for all the experiments that are happening around the world, including in Canada, in terms of trying to improve equity outcomes. So I want to thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you at the next talk. Have a great weekend.
Hold on, Andy. Hold on, Andy.
One more.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Andy, you have one more comment?
Yeah, I just want to express my thanks to Leticia. This is off my radar, Leticia, in much of my skill set and my work, but I'm the Willow Grove representative here. And I just want to say thank you. It's very important work, and thank you for that work.
Thank you too.
All right. Thanks, Andy. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you for joining us.